Dr. Chamberlain to report to you, but very thankful for everyone's participation.
Thank you.
The next item regarding iPads and returns for the summer. So even prior to this extended school closure, a number of area school districts had been starting to make the decision to allow students at the secondary level to keep their iPads over the summer. They still would have the same restrictions on them, the same filters and such, but for those students who participate either in an extended learning, sometimes advanced placement has requirements, we did make a decision to allow our secondary students to keep their iPads this summer. I will tell you, one of the concerns this year was how to safely get them back while social distancing and following the other guidelines and things. So this seemed to be the best case scenario. So we did include a copy of that memo that went out to the students' families at the middle school and high school. And then for those students who are participating in extended learning at the elementary level, they too will be able to keep their iPads as they're going to need that in order to be able to access what's being provided. So wanted you to know that as well. The next item, the Mass Insight for Education, the longstanding partnership that we have had, and this really is costs approximately $10,000 a year to support our students with advanced placement. And as part of ongoing budget discussions with Dr. Hanfield and Dr. Chamberlain, Mrs. Worsbicky, and I, we had decided, and actually Dr. Hanfield knowing it best, having been the high school principal for the past 15 years, that really believed we could do this program in-house and for less dollars. Another piece that was obviously the focus of MIE was really around the math and science, and the social studies department was often feeling like, well, why don't we do Saturday study sessions and such? So I think this plan makes good sense, particularly in light of the budget. But I think with us having done this, I believe it's now for 8 years. The teachers, we have many that return and do it each year. I think I'm confident that they will put together a solid program and still provide our students with the best experience possible. So wanted to let you know that. Additionally, in keeping, again, just in looking at the uncertainty of when school's going to resume and under what conditions or circumstances, we've decided to hold off on posting for Appendix C. So those are the supplemental, so it could be department heads, athletic coaches, leaders of different clubs and organizations, and even the class officers. So this was after a few discussions with Dr. Chamberlain and Dr. Hanfield and I, and just with the uncertainty, it seemed to make sense. Let's wait until we have further guidance, and those can certainly be posted come the summer or whenever that guidance does come. And then finally, under my superintendent's report is the approval of the 2 contingency plans. So as you know, and truly with just tremendous pride in the sacrifice, potential sacrifice that our APS team members were willing to take. I'm sure that you, like me, have been watching the news of late and the number of communities that are being announced almost on a daily basis of how many have had to do widespread non-renewals for staff based on the uncertainty of the budget. We're not in that situation doing that here in Auburn, and hopefully we're not going to need to do it at all, certainly. But it is my recommendation that you approve with that motion there the contingency plans that are in place. We've worked with the district's attorney to draft up a more official. We have emailed agreements from everybody, something a bit more official, and those actually just went out to our bargaining groups today, and anticipate those will be signed and secured, and I would sign them as your agent.
I would entertain that motion.
I'll make the motion to approve with sincere thanks to the Auburn Public School team for their support of contingency plans 1 and 2. And I think that's probably enough of the statement.
Good enough for me. We have it in writing. It'll be
Okay.
recorded.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah.
Okay, roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis?
Yeah.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
And Mr. Scobie, yes, it is a vote. Thank you. And we now move on to unfinished business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you know, with the budget for FY 21, we don't know yet and anticipate that it may be well into July before we do know. But what we've shared with you is some draft budget reduction scenarios. You've seen this type of format in years past. And I really emphasize that these are considered a draft at this point. It starts with the budget that was approved on June 2nd by town meeting, the $27,656,055, which represents a 2.75% increase. But then by column gets incrementally larger, the decreases that could be made. So we've gone through this budget. This has been shared and discussions have been had with leadership team, certainly with Casey, Beth, Cecilia, and myself, but leadership team as well. And intentional, I should say, is that we always try to do our very best to protect the classroom and therefore insulate kids from any potential impact. But you can see that the impact of the 3 furlough days, and those in round 1 would require 1, and round 2 would require an additional 2. And then the savings that could be realized if up to a full year salary freeze were put into place. And again, we remain hopeful as a school district that state numbers may not be as potentially grim as at least initially predicted. And we also hope that the federal government will step up and send monies to towns and communities and school districts to ensure that, I would offer, and I think we would agree that students always need us and our support, and not just us, but the whole team working together. So home and school and community. These past 10 weeks have been trying on all of us, but I would submit to you that very likely more so to our students, and in particular, some of them even more so. So this just shows the different scenarios that could be undertaken by Dr. Hanfield and Dr. Chamberlain and Mrs. Forsbicki and the team. And as noted in the contingency plan, that once those numbers are known, they would have a meeting with all of the individuals, because we've promised them transparency, and that will certainly take place. Any recommendations, they would then bring them back to school committee for your support and approval. And hopefully many of the items on this list are not needed to be actually put in for cuts. One thing I do want to point out, and you see evidence of some cuts, particularly at, I believe, the high school at Swanson and at the Packagug School. So if you recall, when Auburn Middle School was built, due to the green points that we earned for the construction of that, we had a very large credit on our National Grid bill, somewhere in the tune of about $250,000. Well, since then, we've also been getting credits from the Rutland Solar Project. And now, through Mrs. Worsbicky and Mr. Fahey's efforts, we have solar panels on the roofs of Auburn Middle and Auburn High. So we're hopeful that those credits are going to positively impact those lines. But the credit that is at Auburn Middle School continues to be well over $200,000. So with that, one of the offsets that we're recommending is to use $50,000 of that to transfer $12,500 to it as an offset to the high school, $25,000 as an offset to Swanson Road, and $12,500 as an offset to Packagug. And we feel really comfortable in doing that because there still will be well over $100,000, and I would submit probably close to $200,000 still in a credit, so that you would be able to do this similar amounts in FY22, because I think all of us realize that the economy is not likely, we can remain hopeful, but not likely to fully bounce back for at least for a couple of years. At least that's what the experts tell us. So we're happy to answer any questions that you may have on this. And again, it is a draft, but at least it's got a structure for Dr. Hanfield and his team and all of you to consider when numbers are finally known.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, through the chair. I didn't see those documents. Can you have Aileen send those to me again?
Yes.
Okay.
I will do
And
I don't have it either.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's just me. All right.
no, I don't have it either.
Maybe what I can suggest through the chair is that we'll add this to the agenda for next week. And that way it'll give you some time to review through it and digest it and prepare any questions that you may have.
Sounds good.
Okay, great.
I do have one question about that. The credits that we're offering to the other schools, is that for their energy consumption? Is that the
For
kind of?
electric, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on that?
I have one more question. It has to do with the freeze on the raises for teachers.
Mhm.
So did they vote to not have their raises for the year, or did we also put a freeze on their steps?
So it wasn't just teachers, just for clarifying, it was all staff members across the Auburn Public Schools. So administrators, custodians, IAs, teachers, ABAs, school secretaries, nurses, everybody agreed to that. And what it would be a complete freeze on their salary. So if an individual made $52,000 in the current school year, he or she would make $52,000 next school year. But that is the maximum potential that it could be. So what we're hoping is, and when we had those multiple conversations and meetings with the different leads of the groups and those on individual contracts, I think it's fair to say that there is far more interest in, or perhaps a better way to say it, it'd be far more palatable to do the furlough days because you don't work and then you don't get paid. So the salary freeze piece, what they've agreed to is up to a full year's salary freeze. It could very well be that only a 50% salary freeze is needed. Hopefully 0 salary freeze is needed. But it's up to a full year, and that's what they've agreed to, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Anything else under new business? Okay, we now move on to teaching and learning. Dr. Chamberlain.
Beth, you're on mute.
Of course I am. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Let's start that all over again. So as you all know, just a brief update on the remote learning surveys that went out. They are still active, so I'm not going to give you a formal summary of how things panned out, but wanted to share with you some overall results, both from what we're seeing from families as well as from staff, because we did a separate one to all the staff members. What was resoundingly clear from both the staff and the parents is that people would like their kids to be back in school and recognize that they feel like it's a better learning experience all around. However, understanding that this was not anyone's choice to have to do it this way. So that was one thing that was very clear. But from parents, primarily we heard a lot of very satisfied folks. They were happy with the variety of things kids were given. They were happy with the delivery of the material, whether it was through Google Classroom or at the upper levels, they primarily use Schoology for the most part. I would say, well, close to 75% were pretty happy with that piece of things. And so, and it also focused mainly on maintenance of skills, even though there was a significant number of families who I was pleasantly surprised to see really felt like their kids had also acquired new skills through lessons that had been provided. So, as with these things, there's always a bit of a variety of responses, but for the most part, folks were very satisfied. we did hear some about there were some tech glitches, but then they were happy they finally got connected with Mr. Bouvier because he did work to set up a pretty robust tech response team. So again, I will provide you with more formal results once the forms are completely closed, but we continue to get responses every day, so I don't want to close them as yet. Same thing with the staff. So they felt like pretty proud of themselves that they responded pretty quickly, that they were thankful, particularly at the middle and high school, that we are in this one-to-one environment, so that at least at that level, we had a really quick shift to kids at home and they had the tools that they needed. And at the elementary level, I think we did a good job as well of getting the iPads out to kids who needed them. It is clear that as we move to the fall, and if we think we may be in a hybrid environment, from both what we heard from parents and from staff, we do need to bring some kind of firm things up a little bit to make sure that the grades that are using Schoology are using it in the same way, that teachers, kids, parents, and kids know where to find things, that it's always placed in the same way, files are put out the same way, notifications of lessons are done in a similar time frame. There was, and likely, given that we fell into this environment so quickly, there was some differences, right? Some teachers put out their lessons on one night, somebody else put it out on another night. So to kind of firm all of that up, as well as training around some of the nuanced tools that are available, whether it's in Schoology or Google Classroom. But I don't think any of that are unexpected results, given how quickly we kind of had to get up to speed with getting things out to kids. So all good information. We'll continue to gather that in. Mr. Bouvier and I have been discussing things, but overall, very well received. And that's to the credit of the teachers, the principals, and all the staff that really stepped up in this environment. So we were pretty happy with that. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't see any.
All right, and then just quickly, we had originally announced that summer school would be held at Auburn High School this year. As we noted the last time, the Title I summer school will be held remotely, but we will be inviting in some of our most special students for which the remote learning environment was not effective based on their needs. And so Mrs. Reedy is working to identify those students. It will be a very small number of students, but we are going to hold it here at the middle school just because of proximity to central office. Mrs. Reedy is here at the office, I'm here at the office, and it just seemed like a more efficient rollout given the number of students that we'll be servicing this year. So that's it.
Excellent. Any questions or comments for Dr. Chamberlain? Seeing none. Okay, we now, thank you. Now add a little more sunshine to our day and move on to business and financial.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have provided for you a year-to-date budget report dated June 15th, along with an omnibus transfer dated with the same date for your information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on that.
Any questions?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead, Gail.
Looking at the figures with the 1 cent and the 4 cents, you are my mother's kind of bookkeeper. I'm not that good with my checking account, but you got it down to the last penny.
Thanks, Gail.
Very good.
No questions, I'll move on. In a continued effort to manage our costs, Auburn Public Schools once again participated with other districts in the French River Collaborative bid for school department supplies for 2021. The bids followed the Chapter 30B procurement process, with bids being opened on Wednesday, June 10th. Awards are made for custodial supplies, athletic supplies, computer technology supplies, classroom supplies, and copy paper. The copy paper bid was awarded to one bidder, but the custodial, computer technology, classroom, and athletic supplies were awarded on a line-by-line basis, depending upon who had the better pricing, which seemed to be more effective for all of us, cost-effective. So after careful review, I would ask the committee accept the bid awards made for the specific items to each of the following companies as noted in the final bid award listing. Copy paper awarded to Liberty Paper. Computer technology supplies awards to Standard Stationery, Treehouse, and WB Mason. School supply awards to WB Mason, School Specialty, Cascade, Scott Electric, Standard Stationery, and National Art and School. And athletic supply awards to BSN Sports, Gibney Sporting Goods, Masterman's, Mobile Sports Promotions, Pyramid, SNS Worldwide, Sportsman's and Stadium Systems. And then custodial supplies awards to WB Mason, All-American Poly, Central Poly, Simplex Janitorial, Mansfield, Masterman's, Pyramid, Top Notch, and Unipack. So if you could approve those as they're listed in the bid, that would be great. Thank you.
I would entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the bids as just listed and itemized by our business manager.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion on that?
thank you.
Seeing none. Roll call
Moving-
vote.
Oops.
Dr. McCrillis?
Yeah.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
And Mr. Scobie, yes. That is a vote. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to food services. Mrs. King for the food service department, again, participated in the Massachusetts School Buying Group, MSBG, with 86 other school districts represented for 2021 school year. The MSBG collaborative bids have been received and awarded to the companies listed below, or the companies that I'll note below. Groceries and frozen foods were Thurston Foods, 1 year for FY21. Paper and disposables, Mansfield Paper Company. Bread and bakery, Duva Distributors. Milk and dairy products, New England Ice Cream. Water and beverages, Polar Beverage Corporation. And additionally, Mrs. King is working to develop additional partnerships for secondary grocery vendors with Gordon Food Service, Ace Endico Grocery, and Gibson's Dairy and Grocery for produce. But all contract awards met stringent competitive bid processes reflecting the Chapter 30B and federal US state procurement regulations. And we'd like to request your approval or
I would
acceptance.
entertain that motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the above, the list of bids, just itemized by Cecilia.
Do I have a second? Any discussion on that? Okay, roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman? Mrs. Kaufman?
I think she's frozen.
Dorothy?
Frozen.
I think she's bird watching. Well, you know what? I don't think she's gonna take issue with us taking the vote, and there are 4 of us. We have a majority.
No, I'm here.
Oh.
It's very choppy. Sorry, guys. You guys are cutting in and out.
Sorry. Okay. So that was a yes from Mrs. Kaufman. That is a vote. Thank you.
Okay, I thank you all, and that's the end of my report.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you
Thank
for that. Dr. Brunel, was there anything else today?
The only thing is, I was wondering if people's schedule would allow us to have the meeting next Tuesday instead of Wednesday. And I'm proposing at 1 o'clock if that works for everybody. So it'll be June 23rd at 1 p.m.
Okay with me.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I can do that.
I can do that as
You're good too, Jody. Okay, good. Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll get that changed on our schedule. And we will add to that the MASC proposed. Actually, Dottie is suggesting a 1:30 start.
Asking. Oh, sorry, I can't hear very well. Was it one? Is that the proposed?
I'm sorry, through the chair, 1 p.m. on June 23rd. 1 o'clock. I will email her after the fact too.
Okay. That sounds good. I would entertain them. Is that all you had, Dr. Brunel?
It is, yes.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Okay, roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
And Mr. Scobie, yes. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Good
afternoon.
day. Bye.
Well, yes, thanks.